We are Tottenham TV, and the squad for our New Zealand and Australia tour has been announced. The players have already got on the flight. They've boarded the plane, and on Sunday, 4 a.m, the big kickoff against Auckland, followed by the game against Sydney on Wednesday about 10:45, and then finishing off on the 1st of August against Chelsea. So Roberto De Zerbi has picked a 35-man strong squad, or I would say army, to take to New Zealand and Australia. And we're going to go through players. There's been some surprise exclusions and maybe some surprise inclusions as well. So in alphabetical order, I think it is Damola Ajayi, Brandon Austin, Lucas Bergvall, Harry Byrne, Kevin Danso, Ben Davis, Jamie Donnelly, Martin Dubravka, Mateus Fernandez, Conor Gallagher, Archie Gray, Ty Hall, Tyrese Hall, Malachi Hardy. I think Malachi Hardy and Ty Hall were fantastic in the friendly against MK Dons. Antonin Kinski, Rio Kaimaratan, James Maddison, Mason Mellier, which is an interesting one because Mason Mellier basically has only played under 21s friendly so far, and he's been taken on the tour with the first team. Mikey Moore, Richarlison, Andy Robertson, Reece Russell Denny, Dane Scarlett, Dominic Solanke, Manor Solomon, Kota Takai, Matisse Tell, Dylan Thompson, Tyler Tingy, Sandro Tonali, Destiny Doggy, James Maddison, Jan Paul Van Hecker, Luca Williams Barnett, and Yang Min Hyuk. So what's interesting there is that you're looking at Lucas Bergvall, who's gone. So maybe a move isn't as far along as maybe some people suggest. You're looking at players like Manor Solomon. I'm surprised he's gone, with Spurs potentially looking to move him on. Dane Scarlett as well. You know, Spurs have been looking to move him on. So a few players there that might be getting some minutes to impress Roberto De Zerbi before we look to sell them on. I mean, particularly Lucas Bergvall. What's an interesting situation is that with Lucas Bergvall going, the players that have been left at home are Mohamed Kudus, Javi Simmons, Dejan Kulusevski, and Wilson Odobert, who obviously are all injured, and they're going to stay at Hotspur Way to continue their rehabilitation. But what I found really interesting is that Rodrigo Bentancur and Pape Matar Sarr, they claim, have been granted extended leave following their appearances at the World Cup, while they say Pedro Porro, Marcus Senesi, Cuti Romero and Jed Spence will not travel after getting to the latter stages of the tournament. Now, why I find that interesting is because Rodrigo Bentancur actually went out a lot earlier. They exited the group stage, where you're looking at Lucas Bergvall got to the next round, and a few other players that are in the squad got to the next round of the World Cup. So why isn't Rodrigo Bentancur going? Why isn't Pape Matar Sarr going? Is there something more going on there that we don't know about? Obviously, we heard the rumours about Lucas Bergvall and the bids from Nottingham Forest, the bids from Newcastle. We haven't heard much about Rodrigo Bentancur. So could there be a surprise sell there with Rodrigo? I don't know what's going on, but let us know in the comment section below what you think. Why has Rodrigo Bentancur and Pape Matar Sarr been granted extended leave from following the World Cup? And why haven't other players been, granted that extended leave? There has been rumours about Pape Matar Sarr, but not real. So you're looking at players that are going to the potential players or to the players that aren't going. There seems to be moves maybe further along the line to the players that are going to the players that aren't going. So I found that very interesting. The other thing I found interesting was regarding Vicario. So we know that there's heavy interest in Vicario from Juventus. There's Napoli been linked as well. Newcastle have also been linked. And Newcastle apparently today have pulled out the James Trafford situation, where Leeds look like they're really advancing on James Trafford, on the same day as Spurs have announced that Vicario has sustained a minor knock in training and will undergo treatment at the training centre and will not go on the tour. So I do not believe that for 1 second. I think a move for Vicario must be imminent now, because otherwise he would have gone. Because you're looking at the players, like I mentioned before, like a Lucas Bergvall, that is going on the tour. So why isn't Vicario going? There must be a move going on. I do not believe for 1 second that he's injured. So yeah, a few interesting situations there. Excited to see. I mean, I don't know how all these 35 players going to be able to get minutes over the course of 3 games, because you want to really see and get your first team players up to speed. I'm excited to see, some of the players that we saw yesterday in the second half, like Luca Williams-Barnett, Malachi Hardy and Ty Hall, I thought they were, all three of them, put in a brilliant showing. And then you want to see players like Andy Robertson integrated. You want to see players like Kevin Danso get back integrated, Destiny Udogie, James Maddison, because it was all the question, why wasn't James Maddison and Destiny Udogie part of the squad? So it's positive to hear that they're going and there's no injury there and stuff like that. So with James Maddison as well, there is SZY has said that James Maddison is set to be announced as the club captain. And that will happen after Cuti Romero ends up leaving the club. Obviously, Romero isn't on the tour, so I'm guessing that James Maddison will be wearing the captain's armband throughout the 3 games on the tour. Nice early starts for you guys, or for us guys out in London, England. 4 a.m. That is going to be a stretch, man. 4 a.m. on Sunday morning, Saturday night, to watch Tottenham against Auckland, which will be played at Eden Park in New Zealand. And then we go over to Sydney, which I imagine will go over on probably the day after or 2 days after we finish that game, and we play at the Allianz Stadium against Sydney, which will be a 10:45 kickoff UK time, which is 7:45 local time. And then we finish off at the Accor Stadium as well, I think is in Sydney, against Chelsea. So it'll be nice to pit our wits against a Premier League side, a nice rival. We saw last year how we played Arsenal, beat them out in Hong Kong. Let's hope we can repeat that against Chelsea in Sydney. And it's going to be an interesting dynamic, that game against Chelsea, because obviously Xabi Alonso going up against Roberto De Zerbi, a very new-look Chelsea side against a very new-look Tottenham side. So it's going to see how things play out. And it's the first proper side that we're going to be playing as well, because obviously MK Dons behind closed doors, and then a team from New Zealand and a team from Australia moving on to play Chelsea is obviously a massive step up. So that's the one I've really got my eye on to see where we're actually at. So the ones before that are going to be more or less more of a training exercise and a fitness regime and exercise. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Why is Bentancur and Pat Matej not going? Why have we taken these players that look like they're going to be out the door? It looks as though basically everyone available they've taken, and maybe some players with potential moves they haven't taken, and the injured players obviously they left behind. Judging by when Porro, Senesi, Romero and Jed Spence are going to team up with the squad, they say it's going to be a 3-week break. So the final was on the 19th. So you would imagine they'll be back by the 10th of July. And that will be back in time for some friendlies back in the UK. So the tour will be completely finished by then. They'll be back in London for about a week after that. So you'll see those 4 players get reintegrated around that time. I think see how many friendlies they'll be actually able to play. So if they're back on the 10th, that means they'll get the 2 Hoffenheim games, one behind closed doors and one at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and that's it. I think the Getafe game probably come a bit too soon for them as well, because that's on the 8th. And then you've got Hoffenheim on the 15th and then another Hoffenheim game on the 16th. So, yeah, it looks as though they'll be getting there like a week, 2 weeks before the start of the season. So that's a bit of a concern about getting those players up to speed. But we should have a big enough squad. Hopefully we'll still be able to sign some players whilst out on the tour, because we need to sort out that forward line. And maybe you'll see some situations where some players are going to have to leave the tour to facilitate some exits. So yeah, that is your 35-man strong army that Roberto De Zerbi is taking out to New Zealand and Australia. Let me know your thoughts below on the situations that I have brought to light. And thank you, everyone, for joining me today. We'll speak to you very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.